In the vast stage of human history, there are stories that stand out for their magnitude and significance. On this canvas of humanity, the ancient history of the Hebrews shines with a unique intensity. From the days of Abraham and Ur of the Chaldees to the Hasmoneans, this millennia-long chronicle is woven with threads of faith, struggle, liberation, and transformation. A patriarch in search of a divine promise, a nomadic lineage, a series of dynasties, conquests, and falls, and an unbreakable faith. This is the origin of the Hebrews. Join me on a journey through the centuries, as we explore the epic of a people whose history is intertwined with that of humanity itself. Abraham, the Hebrew patriarch, originally named Abram, lived around the 19th century BC. According to biblical tradition, he left his native city of Ur in the Chaldean region of Lower Mesopotamia, along with his father Terah and his family. This was a fertile area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, located in what is now southern Iraq. The Hebrews settled in Haran in response to God's call. After some time, Abraham left Haran bound for the land of Canaan, a region that includes present-day Jordan and Israel, the land promised to him and his descendants. Although Abraham and his family were in Canaan after leaving Haran, their stay could be described as transient or nomadic. Over several generations, Abraham's descendants spread throughout the Canaan region, but they also regularly moved to other areas. Jacob, for instance, went to Haran, where his uncle Laban was due to problems with his brother Esau, but later returned to Canaan with his family, from where he departed to Egypt because of a famine. In the 13th century BC, after living in Egypt for 400 years, the Hebrews became slaves. Moses, leading the now numerous people, brought about what is universally known as the Hebrew Exodus from Egypt to the Promised Land. It is believed they were possibly welcomed by the Hyksos dynasty during the second intermediate period of ancient Egypt. The Hyksos, who were also Canaanites after all, seem to have encouraged the Hebrews to stay. However, with the rise of the new kingdom, the Hebrews were enslaved or forced into labor and mistreated by the Egyptian rulers. The Exodus is a central event in Hebrew history, as their situation had become increasingly difficult under Egyptian oppression. Moses, a Hebrew leader born in Egypt, played a crucial role in this period. According to the Bible, Moses was chosen by God to free the Hebrews from Egyptian slavery and lead them back to the land of Canaan, which God had promised to them through Abraham. One of the most notable moments of the Exodus was the miraculous liberation of the Hebrews from Egypt, which included events such as the divine plagues and the parting of the Red Sea to allow their escape. At Mount Sinai, Moses received the Ten Commandments, which became a set of fundamental moral laws for the Hebrews and are considered an essential part of Mosaic law. Throughout his leadership, Moses guided the Hebrews through the desert for 40 years, a period of purification and preparation before entering the Promised Land. The Exodus and Moses represent a crucial part of Hebrew history and are fundamental to understanding their identity as a people liberated by God. Following the Exodus from Egypt and Moses' leadership, the Hebrews embarked on the conquest of the land of Canaan, which God had promised them through Abraham. This conquest occurred around the 13th century BC. Joshua succeeded Moses as the leader and military commander of the Hebrews. Under his leadership, the Hebrew tribes conquered numerous Canaanite cities and settled in the land. However, the conquest was not a straightforward process, and they faced challenges from indigenous populations and neighboring kingdoms in Canaan. After Joshua's death, a period known as the Judges began. During this time, charismatic leaders known as judges emerged to guide the Hebrew tribes in times of crisis. The judges included notable figures like Gideon, Deborah, and Samson. Each played a unique role in Hebrew history and in combating external and internal threats. This period in Hebrew history is characterized by a relative lack of political and religious centralization. The Hebrews largely relied on charismatic leaders to maintain cohesion and security in a context of ongoing challenges. The period of the monarchy in Hebrew history began in the 11th century BC with the people's demand for a king. This marked a significant shift in the leadership structure, from charismatic judges to a centralized monarchy. Saul was the first king of Israel, chosen by God through the prophet Samuel. Though he started as a strong leader, his reign faced challenges and conflicts with David, who would become one of Israel's most notable kings. David, known for his bravery in battle and his skills as a musician and poet, unified the Hebrew tribes and established Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. His son, Solomon, inherited a prosperous kingdom and is renowned for his wisdom, wealth, and the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, which became an important religious and cultural center. However, after Solomon's death, the kingdom split into two: the northern kingdom, Israel, and the southern kingdom, Judah, due to succession disputes and political and religious tensions. This period of the monarchy in Hebrew history is notable for the rise and fall of prominent leaders such as Saul, David, and Solomon. It is also a crucial time in the formation of Hebrew identity and the consolidation of Jerusalem as a religious center. In the 8th century BC, the northern kingdom was conquered by the Assyrians, leading to the dispersal of the Israelite tribes and the loss of identity for many of them, resulting in the creation of the 10 lost tribes. The southern kingdom, Judah, experienced its own period of hardships and conflicts. Eventually, in the 6th century BC, it was conquered by the Babylonians under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II. During the exile, Judah lost its independence and sovereignty as a kingdom. It came under Babylonian control and became just another province in their empire. The sacking of Jerusalem and the destruction of the First Temple in 586 BC marked a catastrophic event known as the Babylonian captivity, or the Babylonian exile. Many Jews were taken captive to Babylon during this period. The exiled Jews lived dispersed in various communities across Babylonian territory. However, despite the adversity, the Hebrews from the southern kingdom of Judea maintained their cultural and religious identity, adapting to life in the diaspora. This period of division and exile was a critical moment in Hebrew history, with significant consequences for Jewish identity and the experience of exile. It was during this time that synagogues developed as centers of worship and Torah study in place of the Jerusalem temple. The exile is believed to have lasted 70 years, according to the prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 25 verses 11 to 12. After the period of exile in Babylon, a significant event occurred in Hebrew history: the return of the Jews to the Promised Land. This return was made possible by the Edict of Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid dynasty and king of Persia, who allowed the Jews to return to their ancestral land, rebuild the temple, and restore their religious practices in Jerusalem in 538 BC. This marked an important spiritual and cultural renaissance. In addition to rebuilding the temple, the restoration of Jerusalem's walls was carried out under the leadership of Nehemiah, strengthening the city's security. Over the following centuries, the Jewish people faced various foreign influences, including Greek domination under Alexander the Great, and the subsequent Maccabean revolt in the 2nd century BC, which resulted in a period of independence. The return to the Promised Land represented a moment of hope and renewal for the Hebrews, after their experience in exile. This period of religious and cultural restoration laid the foundation for the development of Judaism as we know it today. The Intertestamental period, so called because there was no word from God through the prophets according to scholars, is also known as the period between the Old and New Testaments. It spans from Alexander the Great to the birth of Jesus Christ in the 1st century AD, covering about 400 years. During this time, significant political and cultural changes occurred in the region of Judea and the Mediterranean world at large. Judea, which had previously been under Persian and Greek rule, fell under the dominion of the Seleucid Empire after the death of Alexander the Great. This led to cultural and religious tensions as the Seleucid rulers tried to impose Greek culture on the region, resulting in the Maccabean revolt in the 2nd century BC. The Maccabees, led by Judas Maccabeus and his brothers, waged a successful revolt that resulted in the temporary independence of Judea and the restoration of worship at the Jerusalem temple. This period also witnessed the development of Judaism in its more modern form, with the consolidation of religious practices, the writing and canonization of sacred texts like the books of the Maccabees, and the formation of religious groups such as the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes. The Maccabees achieved several military victories against the Seleucids and regained control of Jerusalem and the Temple, which had been desecrated by Antiochus Epiphanes. In 164 BC, they celebrated the purification of the temple with a festival known as Hanukkah. The revolt continued until 142 BC, when Simon Maccabeus obtained recognition of Judean independence from Seleucid king Demetrius II. The Maccabees established a Jewish kingdom that lasted until 63 BC. However, Jewish independence was short-lived, as Judea fell under the dominion of the Roman Empire 79 years later in the 1st century BC. This period is important because it laid the groundwork for the political and religious situation into which Jesus Christ was born and began his ministry. Additionally, it influenced the evolution of Judaism and the understanding of the Scriptures, as significant religious and literary developments occurred during this time. The birth of Jesus Christ is a central event in Christian history and marks the beginning of Christianity as a world religion. According to the New Testament accounts, Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, a small town in Judea, in the 1st century AD. His mother Mary and his adoptive father Joseph traveled to Bethlehem due to a census ordered by the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus. His birthplace, a humble cave or manger, has become an iconic symbol of his humility and birth. Angels announced his birth to shepherds in the fields, who then visited the newborn. Wise men from the east, guided by a star, arrived in Jerusalem in search of the King of the Jews, and ultimately found Jesus in Bethlehem, offering him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The birth of Jesus Christ is fundamental in the Christian religion and has had a profound impact on history, culture, and spirituality over the centuries. His life and teachings would continue to influence the Western world and beyond, leading to the emergence of Christianity as one of the world's major religions. Thus concludes our journey through the ancient history of the Hebrews, an odyssey that spans millennia and encompasses science, faith, struggle, and hope. In each section of this epic, we have explored key moments that shaped the identity of a people and molded beliefs and cultures that endure to this day. But this story is just a starting point. We invite further exploration to delve into every corner of science, religion, politics, and culture intertwined in this narrative. May this account serve as the prelude to a deeper quest for knowledge and understanding, and continue to inspire reflection and discoveries for times to come.